students, I think all of you are fine, and I am also fine by the grace of Allah. Welcome to all in my English class. Today I will conduct English second paper. Dear students, can you ready in our today's class? Yes, I think you are all ready our today's class. Dear students, can you think what we learned in our previous class? Oh yes, I think you obviously remember it. In our previous class, we learned space. Can you guess it? Yes, I think you guess it. Okay, dear students, today we also learned on this topic space. Can you think what we learned in our previous class? Yes, you think we learned assertive sentence in changing narration or speech. My dear sweet learners, I think you get ready in our today's session. Okay, everybody, let's look in the blackboard, please. Today we also learn this sentence, interrogative sentence. Our topic is space, and today we learn some rules of changing space according to interrogative sentence. Okay, my dear students, in our previous classes we learned many things in this topic. I today take a class only interrogative sentence. Dear students, I request you who do not watch my previous class, please going to my YouTube channel or Joshua Board Online School and watch my previous classes, because if you don't watch that classes, you do not understand properly today's topic, because these topics are related other classes. Okay, dear students, let's go into our class. I recommend you to write down these sentences in your exercise book. My dear students, look at the board please and write it in your exercise book. He said to me, he asked me if I was reading the book. My dear students, look at the second example please. Susan asked me, Susan asked me if I had gone there. My dear students, look at two examples very clearly and attentively. Can you tell any changes in these two sentences? Think 1 minute. Yes, I think you look, there are changes in these two sentences. So, my dear students, we find out what sentences are there. Let's look at the board please. At first sentence, we see, he said to me, are you reading the book? But in the form of indirect speech, we change asked into said into asked, and we add if. There are two changes here, and other changes are basic rules of the speech. Just when we find an interrogative sentence, when it's changed in the form of indirect speech, said to change into asked. Please, dear students, look it very clearly. When we change into indirect speech, we used asked instead of said and if. But when we use it, it is a question. Okay, now I clear it your answer. Look it, in the form of direct speech, when we find an interrogative sentence, it is an interrogative sentence. Are you reading the book? It is an interrogative sentence. When you find this sentence start auxiliary verb, any auxiliary verb, that means auxiliary verb means, I think all over you know what are auxiliary verbs, such as am, is, are, was, were, have, has, had, can, shall, will, may, etc. There are lots of auxiliary verbs. I think all over you know it very clearly. Okay, my dear students, look at the board please. When you find in direct speech start auxiliary verb in the form of indirect speech, you use if. What I say? I say when you find indirect speech start auxiliary verb, you obviously put it if or whether instead of that. It is the first rules or basic rules of interrogative sentence. Okay, my dear students, look at the board please. I cleared it to you. When you find in direct speech auxiliary verb, you use if oblique whether instead of that. Okay, so he said to me, are you reading the book? Here we find an auxiliary verb are. Okay, then we changed into it in indirect speech. He asked me if instead of inverted comma I was reading the book. I think you understand it very clearly. Okay, my dear students, look at the second example please. Sujan said to me, direct form, Sujan said to me, have you gone there? Okay, when we find in indirect speech or change it, Sujan said to instead asked me. Sujan asked me. There is a sense? Yes, I think you find it very easily because I cleared it in the above examples. Have. What is? It is auxiliary verb. So, we use it if instead of that. I had gone there. Okay, my dear students. So, when you find an interrogative sentence in the direct speech, at first we changed said, asked. If you find say, what you can do it? Yes, you can do it say, ask, not ed. When you find say, you can put it ask, not ed. But when you find said, you put it asked, add ed. Okay, you clear it. When you find in the reported space started auxiliary verb, you put if instead of that. Clear it? I think you clear it very easily. And an interrogative sentence, we change it very simply. Okay, my dear students. Look at the third example, please. He said to me, he, dear students, please write it and exercise it other times. Where I lived. Look at the board, please, and write down it. Teacher asked the students where they had gone the previous day. My dear students, look at the board, please, very clearly. In the third sentence, we find direct form. He said to me, where do you live? But when you change it into indirect form, he asked me where I lived. Can you tell? There is a change? Yes. You obviously look it. There is a change. There is a change. Where? There is a change. Where? Okay. So, dear students, when you find an interrogative sentence in the form of direct speech, start with WH questions. WH questions. Please listen it very attentively. When you find reported speech start in interrogative sentence WH questions, you put it in the form of interrogative sentence in indirect speech on this word. So, we put it where he asked me where I lived. Dear students, look at the board, please. The teacher said to the students, direct speech, where did you go yesterday? The teacher asked the students where they had gone the previous day. Dear students, there is also change where or where. So, here is a rule. Yes, you only remember it. WH question add same way, not change. But other thing change obviously by the rules of space. My dear students, there are some rules in the form of direct speech when you find an interrogative sentence. Just 3 things are very important. So, I again repeat it. First thing, say change into say, said change into asked. Here you also add inquire by inquired of the students. Another sense, if. If you find the sentences start auxiliary verb, you put it if or whether. And number 3, when you find any WH questions start in interrogative sentence in reported speech, you not change the word, just put the same. My dear students, I think you learned this very well, and I try to very easy way to learn these lessons. And this is time for ending our today's class. See you in the next class in this topic. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum to all.